Hello, Geekologist! This is Systematic Geekology. We are the Priest of the Geeks, and you get a special week this week because we already did a What's News episode the other day. You get two new What's News episodes in the same week. So, I am Kevin Schaeffer, one of your Geekologists. I am here with Christian Ashley. Christian, how are you today?
Man, I'm doing fine, Kevin. I was in that last episode too.
Yes.
So it just shows how much I'm actually in that I can talk about other stuff as soon as we just did the other one.
I mean, it's the geek world. There's always new stuff to discuss. It never stops. So if you haven't watched that one, go check it out. Come to this one, but it's all different topics on this one. So we're very excited. We're going to be talking Peacemaker. We'll be talking the Kimmel situation. We'll be talking some new trailers, bunch of other stuff. We're very excited for. But before we do, again, if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a like, a subscribe. If you're listening on audio when this episode goes out, please like, rate, review wherever you are. Really helps us out. We also want to plug that we have new merchandise on our store, so you can follow us on our website and our social media, and you can check out some really cool T-shirts there, some really very cool merch. You can get. I know Will Rose loves his coffee mugs there. We've got some of those, so that really helps support the show as well. And if you are a Patreon subscriber, you are awesome. This really helps the show out. So, keep that up. We really appreciate it. Tell your friends about the show. Hey, we always appreciate the support. And with that, we will get into it. So, Christian, it is time for our lightning round before we get into main topics.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There it is. I was waiting for the effect. Yeah. It's
I was
not
on
official
the wrong screen.
It's all good. It's not official until we have the lightning round sound effect. So Christian, what is your lightning round pick for today?
Yeah. Alien Earth, I am not completely caught up, but I am loving what they're doing with this series. They are building the world in a fantastic way, not just using the xenomorphs, but also proposing, hey, what if there were other creatures out there that aren't exactly what you would want in your background, your backyard? Loving this show.
I need to catch up. I did enjoy the pilot. I was a little it's extremely well done. I was a little okay, I love the world building here. The effects are great. It ties very well into that universe. I was just trying from the pilot. I was trying to think of what's the main hook with the main narrative. That's gonna keep me invested. Whether it's because it typically with something like this, there's gonna be a murder mystery or something like that to kind of hook you in. I was a little waiting for that really narrative pull, but I've heard it's excellent throughout, so I do need to catch up. And again, I was really impressed by it. I just it was also it hit a little too close to home watching corporations fight over control of the world. I was maybe I don't know if I want to watch this right now, but Noah Hawley is a wonderful creator, so I definitely will catch up. But yes, great pick. Mine, I actually want to plug a podcast here. It's actually an NPR show called Wild Card, and this is really cool because what it is Rachel Martin hosts, and she interviews different celebrities and some lesser known, but she has a lot of big names on there, and basically she has a list of questions she pulls from a card, but she doesn't know what she's going to ask, and the person obviously being interviewed doesn't know what question's going to be either. And so it can be something like what's a favorite memory to what's a belief you had that changed over time. So it leads to really fascinating conversations. I actually discovered this podcast because we did it through our church. We did a Sunday faith formation thing where we had the youth interview different people, and I was one of them. So I did it one week, and it was really fun. And it's a really cool way to get to know each other better. And again, obviously this is celebrities being interviewed, but it does I like any kind of podcast like that really humanizes the person, even a big public figure, where it really gets deep into who they are. So that's been great. I especially recommend the LeVar Burton episode because who doesn't love LeVar Burton? So yeah, that's one to check out that you can yes, he's wonderful. But yeah, awesome. Any other picks before we get on to the main subjects here?
No, that's good for me.
Okay, sounds good. Awesome. Well, So this was a big week. This is one we were anticipating for a while. I do have theories about why they dropped it on that day in particular, maybe to distract from another situation that we'll talk about later. But Mando and Grogu are back. We got the first teaser trailer for the upcoming Mandalorian and Grogu movie, set to come out May of next year, I believe. And yeah, this is a big deal, being the first theatrical release first Star Wars movie since Rise of Skywalker, which was in 2019. So it's been a hot minute since we've had a big Star Wars movie on the big screen. So I'll share my thoughts in a sec. But Christian, what did you think, or do you want to like a recap? I know the teaser doesn't really give a whole lot story wise, but do you want to recap a little bit about what you saw and your initial thoughts on it?
Yeah, like Kevin said, we're not entirely sure what exactly the plot of this film is, other than there's like a brief tagline of Mandalorian, Din Djarin, and Grogu going after Imperial remnants, led by Sigourney Weaver's character, who's working with the New Republic. So we get to see them meeting her. And I knew she was in it, but I somehow also got surprised when I saw her in the trailer. It's like, oh, I know her. Yeah, sci-fi favorite Sigourney Weaver. So seeing her there is fun. So we don't know who exactly her character is outside of working, I think, with the Republic intelligence or something like that. We see some AT-ATs, ATs, however you want to pronounce it. I've always said AT-ATs, on a incline going down a mountainside and being destroyed by the Mandalorian and Grogu. Some other action scenes. I think we saw Zeb from Rebels again, or he's on the poster.
Yes. Uh huh. Yeah.
Either one.
I think it was. Yeah.
And we also saw what looks like a monster battle royale kind of scenario, apparently run by Rada the Hutt, who would be Jabba's son, that you saw all the way back in the Clone Wars that released in 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
And how he pulls into this, we're not entirely certain, but there's some interesting elements. I'm of mixed feelings, because I want this, don't get me wrong, but I don't know why it had to be a movie. I'm waiting for the justification for why this has to be a movie instead of a whole season, where we could have gotten more time with them. And I've already raged about how I dislike modern television as far as like episode numbers and the wait in between. I'll save that for another day. But yeah, I'm still hyped for it. I still want to see it. I mean, these are characters I love. I want to see them succeed. I want to see how they flesh out this world that unfortunately leads to the events of, the sequel trilogy, but that's its own scenario. How about you, Kevin? You feel a little better now?
I'm like, yeah, so I mean, I also have mixed feelings. I think, like, on the one hand, what excites me the most is that I think this will be the first Star Wars movie I can take my niece and nephews to, and they can see on the big screen, because they're at that age where, like, they're really into it, and this looks pretty family friendly, and I don't think, they'll necessarily need to watch all of Mandalorian to catch, like my nephew hasn't really seen any of Mandalorian, but, like, I've got a Mando figure on my desk, and he loves it, and so, like, he's obsessed. I mean, what kid isn't obsessed with Grogu, like, even if they haven't actually seen the show? So, on that hand, I'm excited for, but I also feel like, it's similar to your thoughts on, like, the justification for this movie existing. For me, the story of The Mandalorian, I think, really came to a good conclusion at the end of season 2. I think they had a great ending there with, Luke coming on. And I mean, I know a lot of people have different thoughts on there. I was really disappointed by season 3. I thought it just kind of, they did that whole emotional farewell between them only to reverse it immediately. And even while I know that there's a big
different
time
series.
gap, yes, exactly. In a different series, and also, even though there's a time gap there of, like, how much time Grogu is with Luke, and him and Mando are apart. Still, what we see as the audience, it's all resolved so quickly. Even if you're watching Book of Boba Fett and then Mandalorian, it just all wraps up so quickly, and that to me undermines the emotional weight of that season 2 finale. So to me, this trailer especially, I know it's just a teaser, but it really felt like a toy commercial. I mean, it was just like, hey, look, Mando and Grogu are back, and this is it. And I'm like, again, that's cool that I can bring my niece and nephews to this, but am I really that excited about what the narrative could be? I mean, I don't want to, immediately pronounce judgment on it because again, we still don't know much about. And I do love Jon Favreau. I mean, he's one of my favorites. But yeah, I'm just hoping that I'll be wrong in that regard and that there will be, an interesting story here. But my concern is that it will just be a big cash grab and toy commercial and like they. I mean, because personally, I think they should have ended Mandalorian with just the 2 seasons, and then had the characters show up in other stories after that. So even if they have a reunion, I think it would have been more fitting for Grogu continue along the Jedi path, and to have that that would have been really interesting, and then to have there have been time spent with Mando, whether it's in his own series or whether it's in a different story where he's away from Grogu and he gets to kind of find out more about who he is away from that fatherly, mentorly role. And yeah, so that's kind of so that's where my concern lies. Again, I mean, of course, Sigourney Weaver coming to Star Wars, heck yeah, I mean that's awesome. But and the yeah, I always called him at too. I don't, people have different ways of pronunciating, but yeah, that shot was awesome. But again, this teaser doesn't really tell me much about what the movie's about, other than, oh, cool, big fit, there's going on another adventure. But yeah, I mean, and I am excited about seeing on the big screen. I think will be cool, and hopefully it is more self-contained. But again, I just think they're stretching out the material a little too much. And what made season 1 especially so special, what it was that a lot of standalone stories with these characters, and you got to really expand the world, and it didn't have to tie into every aspect of the Star Wars universe. It got to allow these characters to really do their own thing. And then it's like, oh, they're really popular, let's merge them into the big overarching narrative that we have going on, and let's bring in Thrawn, and let's bring in Ahsoka and everything. And I love those characters, but that again, that's what made season 1 special, was it was more self-contained. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Of course I'll see it, but I just hope it will be, there's a little more substance to what I think we have from this trailer.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you there. I wish that they had just done the thing of recasting for Luke, Leia, and you already have a Han,
yes.
and I know there's some stigma behind Solo as a film. Is it a perfect film? No, but it was still enjoyable. So I think, what is it, Aiden something or
Alden,
other?
Aaron Rick.
Alden.
Yeah.
I think he did a fine job as Han.
Yes.
So you already have one. You just need the other two, and just tell their stories now, which was a huge part of why I like certain parts of the old Legends, was seeing them and new stories and going after whatever the writers had for them. So I think they're still afraid to do that post Solo, which to an extent I understand. But at the end of the day, just like you're Disney, you have the money, you have the capability, go out and do it. Not to say that I don't want these other characters to show up again, because I love them. I've enjoyed their stories. I want to see them a little more. But can't we have both? So, and then as well, we've got they've released some teaser images from the newest movie after this, Starfighter, which looks. I'm hesitant as well because it's post-sequel trilogy, and it looks like they're doing Lone Wolf and Cub again. But that's just from promo images. It hasn't been confirmed synopsis-wise. But there's part of me is like, oh gosh, are they going to tell the same story again, just with Starfighters instead? So, yeah.
No,
I think we're both cynical for different reasons.
It's hard not to be. I mean, when you love Star Wars so much, it's hard not to have reservations. But I totally agree with you about the recasting. I remember watching that the season 2 finale, which again I did really enjoy. But when Luke is taking the cloak off, I was so hoping we would see Sebastian Stan right there, because I was just like,
Ooh.
come on, this is the moment, do it. And then it was just like, no, they CGI'd. And I mean, and again, of course I love Mark Hamill, of course it's great, but it's still that, and especially at that time, they hadn't really perfected the de-aging technology. I think it has gotten better, but that was the only moment that really undermined the episode, because again, like, I liked that Luke comes in, I like, that story, but I 100% agree that just it's not sacrilegious to just recast the role to better fit that era. I mean, I think Mark Hamill would have supported. Mark Hamill he's posted those images of him and Sebastian Stan where they do the like side by side comparison there. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, there's great, and like, what isn't it like Carrie Fisher's daughter maybe who could have been great Leia? I can't remember, but like, who
Yeah.
shows up in episode
Billy
9? Billy
Lord, I
Lord.
think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Billy Lord would be great. I'm sure there are other actors as well. Yeah, I also think Alden Ehrenreich did a great job too. And I think a lot of Disney reacted to the reception of Solo saying, "Oh, we can't recast Han Solo." That was not the lesson they should have learned from that. That was just like there were a number of reasons I think why Solo didn't perform as well. One was, there was the divisiveness over Last Jedi. Solo only came out 6 months later instead of a year later. There was all the behind the scenes drama of Phil Lord and Chris Miller
Directors.
leaving,
Yeah.
right, and all that. So there was a number of reasons, but I agree. It's a perfectly enjoyable movie. I thought he did a great job. And so yeah, there's nothing wrong with recasting legacy characters to when it's a specific era. It just, to me, that works much better than the de-aging CG. So totally agree there. And then yeah, Starfighter. I'm also. I mean, it's hard to say because we don't know a lot about it. I'm excited that it's going forward. I like Sean Levy, and I also like the screenwriter too. He created the John Hamm series earlier this year called Your Friends and Neighbors, and that was a very enjoyable show. So I mean, but I agree there too. If it is another Lone Wolf and Cub, I'm like, really? Okay, we don't know that for sure. But there is that, that image teaser of like Ryan Gosling and then the kid, and it's like, oh, is this gonna be it? But it may completely surprise us and be something totally different, and I hope so because I also don't want to just
Yes.
retread the same material. But what I do like about that one is seemingly from what they said is it's going to be more self-contained. Like, yes, it is taking place after the events of the sequel trilogy, but it's new characters. It's not really tying to any like big storylines that we know of, and I hope they stick to that. I'm sure there will be Easter eggs, so maybe who knows, we may get a Rey appearance. I don't know, but at least that I like that it's new characters and a new storyline. Hopefully, a new storyline, and then it's not Mando and Grogu over and again. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not. I'm definitely one of the Star Wars fans too. I still love Star Wars. And I'm not one of the like, oh, Disney ruined everything. I think there has been great stuff come out of the Disney era, other stuff I didn't like. I try to look at each project individually and not cast judgment as a whole. Those are just my initial thoughts on like this trailer itself. Again, I hope there's more to offer and I hope it'll be good. Regardless, of course, I'm going to be there seeing it on the big screen. So
Right.
that's kind of, yeah, that's my thought there. I also, while we're doing trailer talk, I have to shout out that they just dropped the new Wicked trailer. I think earlier today, and it looks fantastic. Christian, I know you said you're not unless you are either like forced to watch it or you end up dating someone who makes you watch it. Like that. It's not your thing. Totally respect that, but yeah, that's one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. And it was, I actually, the only thing I will say to that is if you are a fan of the movie and you've not seen the musical, I almost hesitate to recommend watching the trailer because it does give quite a bit away, story wise, that I know well, and I'm really excited for and how it ties into Wizard of Oz. But if you want to go in really fresh and you haven't seen the musical, I might hold off on watching the trailer. But it is a great trailer. I cannot wait for that movie. So, I will definitely be talking. We got to find another Wicked fan on Systematic Geekology so I can talk about
Surely
it more
there's
in depth.
one.
There's got to be at least. I mean, I know Andy's daughter is a theater kid, so he's like seen it. I don't know if he's like a huge fan, but I need to ask around the other hosts and see who would be willing to do a big deep dive. Because I also we could even do a deep dive of Wizard of Oz as a whole and the mythology there and different spin-off stories. So I would be down for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wicked for good. So, well, any other thoughts on that trailer before we move on to DC talk?
I know my sister will enjoy it. I'm glad that she has a movie for her.
Sounds good. Awesome. Sweet. Awesome. Well, let us get into a lot of DC talk here. So, first off, we have an announcement that James Gunn has officially announced the release date of the next Superman movie with a title, with a script called Man of Tomorrow. And I did you see the picture of the screenplay he posted, Christian, on socials?
I have not.
So he posted the cover page, and it has a brain right above the title. So pretty
Okay.
much like
Yeah.
all but
That's who I
confirming
thought.
that Brainiac is the villain. Yes, yeah. So
Because the
yeah,
tagline was that Lex and Superman would have to team up against someone. Well, who would that be? They're not going to do Darkseid this
right.
early on. It's
No,
probably going
no.
to have to be like someone like Brainiac, which is perfect because he's never been in film live action before. We got the technology to make him.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm all for that.
And they've been trying to get Brainiac to the big screen for decades, but I'm kind of like that. Like I likewise, I'm kind of glad that we haven't had him yet because it would have looked way too campy in the 80s and 90s. I don't think they would have had the technology to do it. And then, with the recent iteration of DC, I don't really want to know what kind of he would have looked like there. I just, so I'm kind
Oh
of
gosh.
glad that the first live action interpretation of Brainiac will be in the James Gunn DCU. I'm very excited. But yeah, I mean, so we don't know a ton about the movie yet, other than he officially announced it a couple weeks ago, and he posted an image drawn by Kimmele of Superman with Lex in the mech suit. And again, indicating that they're going to team up, and the Brainiac speculation was all over the place. Because even before that, he had considered putting him in the first movie and just didn't have room for it. But I think this is perfect. I mean, we've already had the Superman and Lex kind of rivalry established, and we've got to know Superman, the supporting cast, and this is, I think, the perfect time to bring in Brainiac. Like you said, I think Darkseid is too early. They'll want to save that for a more big event movie. But I just love that we have a Superman sequel already in development. It's got a release date for July of 2027. They're committing to it. I could not be happier about this. But what are your other thoughts about just what we know about this movie and kind of the trajectory of DC right now?
I'm far more positive here. Gunn has earned my trust
Mm-hmm.
multiple times over on the Marvel side of things and DC. I'm ready to see what they do. Maybe Dark Horse pick if it's not Brainiac, Mongol. War
Mm-hmm.
World would be a fun one, but I think Brainiac is pretty much sealed the deal as far as who they're going for. But yeah, to go beyond the first film, where obviously they were enemies before, but Lex and Superman after their confrontation there, where do you take them? Put them up against a bigger threat, where more than likely Lex is gonna backstab him at some point in time, but maybe it's part of the plan to backstab Superman, or maybe he just goes full evil. Who knows? I'm ready to see what they cook.
And I think it could be something like, he's reluctant to team up with them, but yeah, he's scheming behind the scenes and is possibly in cahoots with Amanda Waller, because where does he get sent at the end of for Superman? To Belle Reve, which Amanda
Yeah.
Waller is overseeing. There's so many directions they could go there, but that seems kind of the likelihood is he's gonna develop technology to help, because at this point, when Brainiac shows up, Superman's not going to be able to rely on his strength alone and his goodness to defeat. He needs someone who is extremely smart to
Yes.
counteract a giant alien AI entity, and so that's going to force him into an alliance here. But yeah, I think then Lex will take advantage of that and then scheme behind the scenes, and that could set the stage for Legion of Doom. There's all kinds of directions they could go in, but like you said, I really trust Gunn right now. He has not let me down, and he has not only an understanding of these characters, but he's very intent on crafting a good story, not greenlighting a production until he's content with the screenplay. And yeah, I'm just very excited for this. And again, they didn't waste any time. I know Superman didn't break $1 billion, and it wasn't box office criteria these days is very weird, and it's
Gosh.
shifted so much. But I'm just happy. Hey, it made enough to be successful enough to get a sequel, and to continue this universe. That's all I needed. I'm happy. People embraced it. If it didn't make $1 billion, that's okay. And hey, it's
Yeah.
still, even now, it just hit HBO Max, and it's on Blu-ray and 4K. So I've seen a lot of people buying that, and so it's still getting support even post its theatrical release. So I'm very content there, and I'm very excited for what Gunn and company have in store for DC going forward.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. Real quick too, do you have any fan casting for Brainiac? If we definitely.
Oh, I'm terrible at actors knowing who would be perfect for what. It's like I never would in a million years said it's Sebastian Stan for Mark Hamill and Luke until someone else says it. I'm going to trust the casting director. I don't know better than they.
Sure, sure. Mine
How
would
about
be.
you?
I know he's already technically played a role in these but Chukwudi Owiji, I think that's I apologize if I'm butchering the name, but he played Myrn in Peacemaker season 1, and then he was the Eradicator in Guardians 3. Phenomenal actor, and he could be kind of typecast into villain role, especially after Eradicator, but he's a brilliant actor, and I think he could really bring that gravitas and charisma to the role. I'm really just interested too in whatever actor they pick for. I think there's a number of really charismatic actors who could play this role, but I'm really interested in seeing what kind of design they'll do costuming wise, because Gunn's drawn a lot of inspiration from Superman the animated series, and we know what he looks like there. If it'll be more like that aesthetic, or if it'll be something really original, but that would be my pick actor wise. But there are others too, and I also think this could tie into, they could bring back Bradley Cooper's Jor-El here and expand on that storyline too. I know you had reservations about that one, but and that's okay. But I think it does provide an opportunity too to explore more of Krypton's history if they're bringing in Brainiac.
Oh yeah, that'd be perfect for that. Depending on which continuity we're dealing with here, he is tied to Krypton, and certain, like I said, certain continuity. So we could get more backstory in the. Well, was that message actually true that
Right.
Lex sent out, or was it deep faked, or is there something else involved here?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see where they go with it. Like I said, the last one we talked about, I'm not big on the twist. I think it
Sure.
kind of undermines part of their message they were trying to say. But it's canon, so I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, if you could, I think, I honestly, I think when Gunn was developing the movie, and he said in multiple interviews that if Superman didn't work, it just the rest of the universe wouldn't work, and I think that was one of the biggest decisions he did struggle with. He knew, are people going to respond to this well? And they're fans of it. There are others who aren't, but someone like you who isn't a fan of that decision in particular still liked the movie as a whole, so it's a good sign that it overall worked. But yeah.
Yeah.
So Man of Tomorrow is coming. We get more of this universe, more of these characters. I could not be more excited. And that leads to our next DC topic, which you and I both picked perfect taglines here for our banner names here. I love it. But Peacemaker season 2. I know we're going to be talking about this a lot because we'll do probably, I think, a full look at season 2 once it's done. And I know on one of the other recent What's News episodes, you, Evan, and Herbie talked about it a little bit there after it had just premiered. Now we are 5 episodes in. Am I correct?
I think so.
Right. Yes, I think that sounds right.
Yeah.
And so we've got 3 more this season. I know. Well, I know you shared your thoughts in the premiere a little. I'll go ahead and share my initial thoughts, and we can talk. What we think of this season so far. It's no secret I love Peacemaker season 1. I thought that is a blast of a show. And what I think is really bold about this season is that it goes in a really different direction, because season 1 is this action comedy, sci-fi spectacle. It is like the Suicide Squad. It's a ragtag group of outcasts saving the world, and it takes the most unlikely character from the Suicide Squad to lead his own show, and the one you would think you would hate the most, and it makes them the center of a spin-off series, and it does it phenomenal. You actually fall in love with the character in a weird way, and you come to actually root for him, and you come to really love this team and their dynamics, and you love them because of all their flaws, not in spite of them. You're really invested. It makes you care about someone who you never thought you would. and it has a really great arc. But at the end of Peacemaker season 1, okay, Chris Smith, John Cena's character, has changed. He decides that he doesn't. He's wrestled with the everything that made him who he was, and this character who said in the Suicide Squad, "I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I have to kill to achieve it." And he has now come full circle and recognized that, oh, maybe he doesn't want to be that. Maybe he actually wants to do good in this world and be a hero. And with that, it changes the trajectory of the show completely, because okay, if Peacemaker is not really going to be that douchey misogynistic character anymore, who doesn't really care about human lives because he's only focused on his mission, then who is he now? And so this season is really wrestling with that and exploring that dynamic. And he, at the beginning, he auditions for the Justice Gang and he gets quickly rejected, but he's trying to find his identity. Likewise, the other characters here, because of the events at the end of season 1, where Adebayo sold out her mother, Amanda Waller, and exposed her corruption. While that was, I think the right thing to do, it also put this whole team in trouble because they were working for Amanda Waller, and so now they're trying to reestablish themselves and figure out what to do next. And particularly with Amelia Harcourt, who has only ever worked for federal agencies and been this super spy and agent, now she can't find employment, and she wrestles with, oh, what is my identity? What am I going to do? And she's in a state of complete crisis here. And so that's what I really like about this season, what it's exploring. There's also the aspects of what it's doing with the pocket universes that we saw set up in Superman and in season 1 of Peacemaker, because Chris's father, the villain of season 1, played by Robert Patrick, had all this interdimensional technology in his basement, and we have to learn, we're going to learn, how did he come to acquire that? How does it tie into the larger DC universe? And what I really like about all of that is that, unlike what Marvel's been doing in the MCU, where multiverse saga has been mainly an excuse for nostalgia and bringing back the Fox X-Men and doing these alternate versions of the characters and not really having a clear narrative, I really like what the use of the multiverse and the pocket universes are here, where it's very much narrative focused here, because here it's really around this story of Chris gets to visit this alternate dimension where it's this utopia for him. He's in this world where he's embraced. He's the superhero he always wanted to be. Amelia Harcourt is in love with him. He wants to be in this world. And, this is where we're going to get into spoilers here, but I'll go ahead and say I think it's that whole storyline is setting up something extremely dark here, because I don't know if you've seen different theories or if you've caught on to it here, but so when he's in that world that, again, seems so utopian and everything he always wanted, when you look closely, it's actually, I think, going to be like a Truman Show kind of narrative, where when you pull back, one of the big things that I didn't initially notice, but then I watched it on Screen Crush and they pointed it out, when they're in that universe, there is not a single non-white character, and which leads people to think that this may actually be Earth X, which is a universe in DC where the Nazis won World War II. They explored that story in the Arrowverse, and this actually makes complete sense, because, okay, yes, he's celebrated in this universe, his brother's alive, and his father is happy, but it doesn't actually say, exactly, it doesn't actually say his father is not the racist, horrible person that we saw in season 1. It's just he's happy. Why is he happy? Because this is the world that he always wanted. This really dark, white supremacist, fascist state where it is all white people. And I was like, once I saw that theory, I was like, oh, that makes complete sense. And I think it's more solidified even in the most recent episode when Chris leaves to go live in this world completely. He says goodbye to his friends. He leaves the note, and they're following him into this universe. I think it's setting up something for, oh, this is going to be really dark, when and it's going to pull the curtains back and reveal that, oh, maybe the grass isn't greener on the other side, and this is actually something really messed up, and that's what's going to play, like how what's going to set up really a narrative for the rest of the season. So yeah,
Okay.
again, I don't claim ownership of that theory. That it's something I saw explored on multiple channels, and I agree with it. But I think the more I'm watching this season play out, I think it makes total sense. So sorry, I know that was a lot of rambling there,
No,
but I want to hear your thoughts too.
no. If that is true, you've opened my eyes. I like that a lot because I knew when he was fighting those terrorists in was it third or fourth episode, I
Yes.
was kind of going, okay, I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe he's on the wrong side of this, and
Huh.
I'm not saying that they're going to be perfect because they're still trying to kill people
Right.
and all that, but something tells me he's not 100% there. And for him to be a hero, what does that say about the society of this universe here? I didn't think a lot deeper as far as what they did, and I really like the idea because yeah, it would make perfect sense for why he would be appreciated more there than he is, as opposed to not saying his home universe is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but at least it
Sure.
wouldn't be that far gone. Um, and I don't pay attention. I'm not trying to be that guy when I'm saying this. I don't pay attention to people's skin color, so I didn't notice that there wasn't any non-white actors in those scenes. I'd have to go and relook at that. I mean, I trust you obviously, but I mean, that would be very telling, a very subtle hint that could point to something like that, because his dad, as they've changed it for the series, is not the nicest man in the world. It is, in fact, a very evil man. And for him to be appreciated and his sons to be appreciated, that tells me, there's something screwy. And I hadn't gone that far, so I'm grateful to hear that. And I also liked how you mentioned that juxtaposing this with Marvel, because today Marvel Zombies dropped.
Ah.
Uh, and it was based off of the What If episode.
Right.
And I want to say it was Will and Justin talking about it a while back, and they were more
Ah.
positive than I on it. I am not very positive on What If after
Mm-hmm.
bits of season one. I think it's wasted potential. I think they went safe. I think they went too hard on original characters that they were going with instead of showing different scenarios. And the Marvel Zombies episode was fine, but not worthy
Mm-hmm.
of what
Mm-hmm.
we got. And I'm still thinking about what happened there because there's a cliffhanger and there's also some questionable choices made as far as, characterizations. And it's dark. I mean, it's a zombie, you know.
Sure.
So yeah, you're not watching with the kids. And I know this is kind of a side tangent, but like comparing and contrasting the two,
Sure.
I think as of this point in time, DC's handling multiverse shenanigans better. And that's easy to say because they're only really doing it right now, comparatively speaking. So I'm interested to see where they go from here and how everyone else is going to react to being in this new reality and how it's going to be exposed to us. Because now the more I think about it, the more I like that idea that it could be like an Earth X kind of scenario, or even a
Mm-hmm.
Earth 3. I think was where the
Okay.
uh, evil. Oh gosh, what's the evil Justice League? The Crime
The
Society or something like that.
the Justice Lords.
No, no,
Is that
Justice Lords is the cartoon.
okay?
It's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
the Ultraman and
Ultraman and that.
oh,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
forget what they called it, but I mean, there's like Legion of Doom is like the main villains, but I forget what they
yeah.
named. I know what you're talking about, but yeah, 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 yeah.
So it could be that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a lot of fun because like he's
Yeah.
out of his depth if that's the case. And what does
Right.
it mean? Well, your life is perfect here, but at what cost? What are you willing? Are you willing to come back to a world that despises you? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there are not this oppressive stuff. Assuming that that's what's happening in the other
Yeah.
universe. Like, yeah, I like where Gun's going with that. If that is, and if it's not, he's cooking. We'll see what he does.
We will. But yeah, it just once I heard that theory, it makes more and more sense going along. So I'm yeah now as with the last week's episode ending with him going into that universe and then his friends following him, the 11th Street kids going in there too. Yeah, I think it's about to get really bonkers. And I also like all the other elements of the season too. So I put as my tagline here, put Tim Meadows in everything because I mean Tim Meadows just makes every show and movie he's in better. This is already a great show, but when he popped up, I was just in tears. That scene with him and Economos, he can take because I was listening to the podcast here that James Gunn and Jennifer Holland and Steve Agee host, breaking down each episode, and because of Christmas evolution here, Tim Meadows' character kind of fulfills that, the douchey, unfiltered persona that Chris was in season 1, and just saying off the wall stuff, but his delivery is just absolutely perfect. One of the all time great comedic legends of our time. But there's that. There's the story with Rick Flag Jr. I also really love Frank Grillo's performance, and seeing how that's gonna, we got to see him and Chris finally come face to face in last week's episode, and
Yes.
And Rick Flag Senior. I can't remember. I may have said Junior earlier, but meant Senior. But Rick
Junior
Flag Senior.
died.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But Senior absolutely beats a Peacemaker to a pulp in the interrogation scene, and it was brutal. But I love how and it's a perfect I love how it ties into the Pocket Universe stuff because Rick Flag Senior has wanted to prosecute and take down Peacemaker for years at this point, ever since Rick Flag Jr. was killed. But he couldn't just do it, because he had a personal vendetta. He needed an excuse. And now, Peacemaker is harboring interdimensional technology. Yes, I got it in. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the bird blindness stuff and the Michael Rooker character. It's just only James Gunn can write that, and only Michael Rooker can bring a character like that to life. It's just, it is still a very delightful show. Obviously not for kids, but there is so much
yes.
that goes without saying. But I will,
Content
I will say, yes. Well, but I will say to that too, yes, it very much ties into Superman, and James Gunn has even said that this is going to set up Man of Tomorrow. But at the same time, just from a, trying to be an objective viewer here, and, as someone who watches all this stuff, but thinking about it from the perspective of okay, families who took their kids to Superman and aren't going to be able to watch this or watch Lanterns, but, can watch the Superman movies. I think it's at least, we'll see how it plays out with Man of Tomorrow, but it seems like with DC, it's unlike Marvel. It's you can just kind of pick and choose what you want to watch. You don't have to consume everything. There are going to be people like you and me who are going to follow every bit of news, but it's like in the comics where you could be picking up one or two titles. You don't have to read everything, and even when there's a big crossover, you can still gather enough context to figure out what's going on. That's at least my perspective of he set it up so that yes, it's interconnected, but you can still watch Superman independently from Peacemaker. And he's designed it that way so that kids can, watch the stuff that's kid friendly. Because again, Marvel, I think, has just tried for a while there, made it so interconnected, so you would have to be watching this TV show in order to understand this movie, and that was really backfiring on them for a while. So I like that here we have stories with different tones and different characters, and you can consume it all, but you don't have to.
Yeah, I agree. But the good thing about kids is eventually they grow up, so they don't have to watch something immediately. There's this thing called patience and discernment that you can use instead of saying, "Oh, this is DC; it's all comics and good for kids." It's no, that's not how everything works. I'm not giving little Jimmy at 5 years old, "Here's your first graphic novel," and it's Watchmen. It's just has some discernment, some wisdom, in not. I'm going to tell you how to raise your kids. Yes, do that because it's the smart and responsible thing to do as a parent. I'm not a parent, but I work with children all the time, and there are things I would let some of them watch, and some of them I wouldn't because this one's more mature, that one's not. This one is ready. This one isn't ready. So, tell your kids, just be smart.
Parental advice from Christian Ashley. No, but I like, but yeah, no, this is still, great show. Again, I think with season 1, I would have to say overall more entertaining so far. As all, like, I mean, it was just, and I rewatched it right before this season came out, and it was a blast to rewatch. But I'm still, again, very invested, and I like the boldness of this season and the way it's doing
Yes.
something radically different from right down to the theme song. That was one thing that, Do You Want to Taste It has this, like, immediately hooks you. It's this, like, rock anthem. And then the theme song they chose for this season is Oh Lord by Foxy Shazam, which when I first heard it, I was like, okay, this is going to take some getting used to. It's more melancholy. It's, feels like a different tone here. Now I absolutely love that song. It's, I've got it on playlists and everything. And it really captures, now having seen more of the season, it really does capture the tone of the season really well. And again, it's that, contrast to season one. I like that it's not, because I think, I feel like a lesser filmmaker could have just made a duplicate of season one, had another, they give them another alien threat or another creature or something like that and just do the same thing, but, and reunite the team. I really like that, James Gunn said, no, we're going to naturally evolve the story. We're going to, like, take what happened in season one and make sure that that has consequences and that there's going to be a progression for the characters. And we're going to see that play out here. So I really have a lot of respect for that because it is, it's a risky move because for people who really, really liked season one and wanted it to remain exactly that way, well, they're going to, this is a different tone and this is a different storyline, but I think that's a good thing. It's, storytelling evolves and the characters evolve. I don't want it to see the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. I'm liking the direction they're going here because you got to wonder. Okay, they start season one with what they do, alien invasion, like you
Mm-hmm.
said. Now we're in a whole new direction with alternate universes, and
Mm-hmm.
Peacemaker's worth, and figuring out where he was. Well, pretty much everyone is trying to figure out where they fit in,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm liking what they're doing. So yeah, they're doing a great job here. And once again, content warnings. They have these fun little things that says you TVMA or whatever. So sorry, I'm tired of seeing
Oh
people
no,
complain
it's
about
yeah,
something that's their own fault. Like I was not
yes, yeah,
very happy seeing some of the scenes in the very
sure, sure,
couple opening episodes, but I also knew what I was getting into, so I
yeah.
have no one to blame.
It lays it out in the rating there. I mean, it's not trying to hide it. And if you watch season one, it's like, what did you think you were gonna get here? But
Do you think it was
I
going to
also,
get lighter and fluffier?
yeah, right. I also a quick shout out too because James Gunn only directed the first episode of this season, and then because he was shooting Superman when this was being made, I don't know if he's directed any others this season. But for most part, they had other directors, and one of my favorites who I think he may have done some in season one, but regardless, Greg Matola, who he directed Superbad and he did Paul, which is like one of my favorite action comedies. Man, he knows how to direct an action sequence. Like he did the episode when Chris first goes into the alternate dimension for the and fights the Sons of Liberty. That is just, I think, some great filmmaking there. So I really like the collaborators that James Gunn also worked with. Like, yes, you see his style all over the place, even in the episodes he doesn't direct. But I really liked the filmmakers that he worked with on this season and in season one.
Yes, they're doing a great job.
Yeah. Awesome. Excellent. Well, that is, I know plenty of DC talk. Okay, now we're gonna shifting gears here. Christian and I are big horror fans. This movie has been out for a minute now, but it's still really doing well and is still in theaters, so it's really exciting. But Weapons, written and directed by Zach Kreger, came out again about a little over a month ago, I believe. From the same director as Barbarian, which I really loved as well. Well, so Christian, if you want to start off on this one because you just saw this recently.
Yeah. So what we see here, we have different vignettes, as it were, focusing on separate characters. There's this town, I want to say in Pennsylvania, where one night at exactly 2:17 in the morning, an entire third grade class, except for one student, disappeared. So there were 18 kids in the class. There's one kid
Right.
left, and that kid, Alex, has been questioned by police. The teacher of that class, I believe her name's Justine in the film, is interrogated by the police. They're trying to do what they can do to figure things out, but they have like ring camera footage of the kids suddenly just leaving the house and I couldn't help but laugh because what they're doing is essentially the Naruto run, all the way out with their hands spread wide. Um, and then you see adults doing it too. And like, there's some comedy here that's like done intentionally. And there's definitely some black comedy later on in the film that's done intentionally. So you got to keep yourself. This isn't 100% horror. There are moments where you're going to be laughing uncomfortably, and it's intentional. I'm fairly certain. So it goes with watching through different lives of the teacher trying to figure out what happened to the class, going to Alex's house, sees this all boarded up and newspapers all over the place, and his parents are just kind of sitting there, and her trying to figure out what's going on. Then we also have the father of one of the kids. His name is Archer. Trying to find out what happened to his son Matthew, and he's doing his own kind of like investigation. It's like trying to line up exactly where someone would have left, and then using because he's a construction worker or a contractor or something like that. He has a map of the city, so he's triangulating positions of where they could have ended up. And he doesn't like her because he thinks she had something to do with it. She's dealing with alcoholism from past experiences in life, and obviously you lost your entire elementary school class. That's got to weigh on you immensely. As someone who loves children, I couldn't imagine if I was in that position how I would feel, what I would do. And I think that what this film does great is it puts people in what a typical C grade horror film would have done. That would have been the antagonistic father asking questions, and that would have been his entire character. There would have been the teacher who's like, "Oh, this is wrong. I've got to do something right." And like, no, that makes them a little more uh, juicy as characters, give them a little more flavor. We've also got our policeman who makes very questionable choices all across the entire film, trying to solve the case. And we also have the principal who has attempted to figure out what's going on as far as like talking to the parents of the last student. And there's also some stuff that like, hey, everyone there's a mandatory responsible, mandatory. Goodness gracious, why can't I think of the word? Responder? No, not responder. Reporter. Gosh, dang it.
Right, okay, right, yeah.
Yeah, like
It's all
and it's
good.
like
Yeah.
she's acting like it's only him, but like as a teacher, that's also her job. So that's one thing I kind of have a little bit of a gripe with. But
Mm-hmm.
because they're wondering, like, because his parents haven't shown up, it's like, oh, his father suffered a stroke. Well, okay, well, that means we have to do some legal documentation here because we find out that Alex, as he's going back home, his home has been taken over by this woman who claims to be his aunt. And you learn along the way, yeah, spoilers for the film, by the way, that she is a witch. And she is working some kind of arcane ritual where she is potentially stealing the life force from these children to grow younger. It's never explicitly stated. It's a very fairy tale logic to the movie. So if you're more familiar with stuff like that, it's easy to kind of put the pieces together, but they don't explicitly spell everything out for you. And to an extent, I like that because there's enough evidence to support a lot of this. It's not one of those, oh, did it really happen? Or everything's ambiguous. Like, no, there's enough. If you actually put the work in, you're fine. So everyone kind of converges together, finds that the witch is real. And then we get to see a great scene where Alex has figured out how to use the magic the same way that she does. And what she has done is she can turn people into weapons, since the title of the film, as like autonomous, murderous people. Their only will is to do whatever she wants them to do. It's like she steals hair from the teacher and sends the principal after her. It happens to multiple people across the film, but he's learned how to do it from watching her. And he breaks the magic stick or whatever that would be used here, and the children then turn against her, and we get a hilariously dark and horrific scene and funny scene of them 17 kids chasing down an old woman, breaking into various houses and destroying stuff along the way, and a very gruesome scene of her death that is extremely well deserved. And eventually, we find out that they're starting to show signs of recovery, and that's where the film kind of ends, on the hope that maybe they can get past what happened to them.
Excellent summary. I love it. Because yeah, I'm glad because I saw it opening weekend, so I mean I still remember the overall story, but I know it was fresh in your mind. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and say that it's been a great year for horror. We've had some really good, I mean, I know we pretty much all love Sinners. There was the new Final Destination, I thought was excellent. Companion, which was also produced by Zach Kreger. There's been some really great, and particularly theatrical experiences. This one was a great one to see in theaters with a crowd on a Friday night. It just had that, it had a really, just it really sucks you in. Everyone was invested, and I think what I really liked about this film the most was, like you said, the characters. They never felt flat or one dimensional. You got really different tones to them. Particularly Julia Gardner's character is the lead. You see this like, okay, she's this teacher who, she's being blamed by this small town, but she's not. What I like is the way it plays. It reveals more of her story. Is you're kind of like, wait, maybe did she have something to do with it? Because she's not, she has a lot of flaws too, and she can be deceptive, and she has an affair with her friend, played by Alden Ehrenreich, who we mentioned earlier. And these are not, none of the people are inherently good. They all have their flaws, and so I like that there's layers to these characters. It has really great performances. Also, side note too, like, so the character Josh Brolin plays was originally going to be played by, guess who? Pedro Pascal, because he's and this was one of the only roles. Yes, this was one of the only roles he had to back out from because of scheduling conflicts. Because believe it or not, he can't actually be everywhere at once. So he did not, but he very much supported the movie, but he did have to back out of this one. But I love that we almost got another Pedro performance this summer. But alas, Josh Brolin was able to step in when he couldn't do it. But yeah, there's the layer of the characters, and what I really like too is just the execution here. So, like you said, it's broken up into vignettes here, similar to how Barbarian is told, with this 3-act structure from different character perspectives, and you learn more about this world and about the setting and the story as you go along. And that really kept me invested. There's criticism as to, from this movie saying like, oh, well, that wasn't that, big a reveal about the Aunt Gladys and everything. For me, whether that's a big twist or not, I mean, I thought it worked really well, but even if you don't like that as a whole, again, I just think the execution here is so good. It's really immersive storytelling. It's, you get to see different points of view and the same events from different perspectives, and then it all culminate. And I just, like I said, with seeing this movie on opening weekend with a big crowd, I was just so invested the whole time. I was really wanting to know what was going to happen next, and the visual style is excellent. It's just, really smart filmmaking. That poster alone, with the, it's just something that it's unsettling and it's really captivating, and it sticks out to you. So many movie posters today just feel really artificial and photoshopped. That one feels unique, and it's just the image that really sticks in your mind. So that's really what I love about it. And I love the ending. I thought, the actor who played Aunt Gladys was fantastic. I just love how creepy it is. And,
Gosh.
and oh my gosh. And like you said too, yes, there are plenty of moments here where you're meant to laugh in an uncomfortable way. It's similar to watching a Coen Brothers film, or anything like that, where it's, drawing from black comedy, and, but, even with horrific stuff going on, you're still meant to have some fun here, and it can be really funny and dark, and I think it ties all of those elements together really well. So yeah, I mean, Zach Kreger is quick. I mean, even with just the 2 features out right now, he's definitely a filmmaker who, yeah, I'm gonna pretty much. I think right now it's safe to say I'm gonna see anything with his name on it. I'm gonna go out because I know he's making a Resident Evil movie next. That's what he's working on right now. I haven't even played Resident Evil. I mean, I know it's very popular, but I'm just not like a gamer. And I'm gonna see that movie, when that comes out. And I'd be really fascinated to see what he does after that, And I listened to an interview with him after this movie. Yeah, I really like his style. I love his storytelling, the surprises, the cast here. And I like, too, how, there is the allegories here to school shootings and to trauma. But, as Zach Kreger said in interviews, and what I really like about this is, you can kind of take away from this movie what you want to. It doesn't have a definitive meaning or a definitive allegory. And that's one thing I feel like in modern film culture. There was an essay about this in Hollywood Reporter where people feel like they have to immediately diagnose a film and determine what its message is. And really, that's not the point of art. Art is meant to be interpreted in different ways. And Zach Ryker is very much about that. And he wants, that image where you see like an assault rifle pop up in the sky there. It's again, there's definitely a connection, but he also said it's not meant to be overly allegorical. He wants you to kind of like take different things from this movie, and I really appreciate that. I think horror especially, there's different messages you can interpret, and it's not linear in that respect.
Yeah, I think what he does a great job is like building off of old fairy tales, like Hansel and Gretel and
Yes.
Pied Piper of Hamelin, amongst others. Like the children brought into circumstances beyond their control or controlled by someone else that should be an authority figure, or someone should have been fine with them being around to an extent. And then, there's plenty of things you could go to, the school shooting one or abuse of various sorts. It's a really fun film. Like, I was thinking, like, what would I rate it? And I think I'm going to go 9.5. And I could even be convinced after time to give it a 10. I'm trying to avoid recency bias, because I really enjoyed this film. Yeah, I've got some minor gripes with it. Just because you have gripes with something doesn't make it unable to attain a 10 in my eye, because there's no such thing as a perfect film. They're made by imperfect people. I say if you can watch this film, have at it, or just wait till it releases wherever it releases, watch it then.
Absolutely. I'm all for original films like this, and that and if you get to see it in theaters, great. If you can't, definitely still check it out. I think if you're a horror fan, you'll really like it. And even if not, it's really good storytelling here, and I agree too. It draws on the fairy tale aspects, puts them in a modern context. Great cast. Is it Ben Ben Wong, like the guy who plays Wong in Doctor Strange and
Benedict.
Avengers? Benedict Wong. Yeah, yes.
Yes.
He plays the principal. He's great. Josh Brolin, Julia Gardner, phenomenal cast. Definitely just really good movie. Go check it out. I also would give it a very high rating. I would also say probably 9 or 9.5. I too. It's hard to give a full 10. I've only seen it once, but I did thoroughly enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, I know we're running low on time here, and we just have one more topic to cover, but hey, Josh can, do editing, and if you're still sticking around on YouTube, thank you, we appreciate it, but yeah, as I alluded to earlier, I thought it was a little convenient that Disney dropped, said, hey, here's a Mando and Grogu trailer, to try to distract for some recent controversy, with canceling Kimmel, which now has been brought back, but Kimmel situation and free speech. I know there's only so much we can say about this in a short amount of time. I know there's a lot here, but the gist of this is this all happened in the last week, but under pressure from the Trump administration, the FCC pressured Disney and associated networks to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. They announced, I think it was last Wednesday, I want to say, that he was indefinitely suspended, and so he was off the air for a few days. He just returned to air last night, and I was able to watch the monologue. I don't even watch Kimmel regularly, but I this was like one of the highest rated late night episodes in years because people had followed it. After the decision to cancel him, there was immediate backlash from both the public and from celebrities. Petition signed. There was boycotts of Disney. There was a ton of cancellations of Disney Plus subscriptions, and that quickly put pressure on the company to reverse the decision and bring him back in the air. The reason for cancellation was in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder. there where Jimmy Kimmel was doing a monologue, I believe, early last week, and he said something to the effect of, the MAGA coalition is trying so hard to pretend that the shooter was anyone but one of their own, and that was enough to anger the Trump administration. The president of the FCC, Brendan Carr, who is an ardent Trump supporter, there was enough backlash there. They took him off, and then again, people retaliated, saying this is a direct opposition to free speech. So it's been an eventful few days
Yes.
in late night TV. This also comes only a couple months after Colbert's cancellation, which thankfully he still has a year before he was able to still get into the season, but that show is completely going away too. So yeah, a lot to say here. Again, I know we this could be almost a whole episode in its own, and we want to be respectful to different viewpoints here. But yeah, Christian, I'll go and ask what your thoughts are on this whole situation.
Yeah, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go everything. But if you want to hear more of
Sure.
what I have to say, check out the Foreign Saints podcast. I went on there with host Karai Rowe and his wife Meredith, and discussed the issue and how we came from different points of view in that. But yeah, this is one of those things that, do I agree with everything that he said? No. We still don't know exactly why the shooter did what he did. We're still figuring that out. If it turns out that he was MAGA, then he was MAGA. If it turns out that he was the most radical leftist who ever existed, he was a radical leftist. The point is, a man was murdered, assassinated. And there's a family left behind in the tragedy of that. There's a conversation that needs to happen around how he was able to gain access to the weapon that, murdered a man, and what the security was doing and all that didn't prevent something like this from happening. And it says a lot about our country. It's like how divided we are. Regardless of the political beliefs of the shooter, the response has been abysmal on all sides of the equation. I'm not saying every single person has said something evil.
It's just
right. I'm not very happy about what certain people have said. We've had people lose their jobs over this. Like Kimmel lost his job. I don't think he went far enough to where he deserved to lose his job. I think he was doing as he always does, responding to this. And I think what happened is that he threw in that comment as well about how Trump, this is not how you mourn a friend. This is more like losing a goldfish or something like that. And Mr. Big Ego himself couldn't take any criticism whatsoever. And I'm fairly certain pressured. And yes, as far as the show is concerned, I am on the more right side of things. But I don't like the man. He doesn't represent. He does represent me, and as he was elected president, but I didn't vote for him. I would not vote for anyone who'd say they're Republican and was like him. So. And then they get to the other side of things where many people on the left were extremely vehement in their vitriol against Charlie Kirk. And I knew he existed before this, but I'd never listened to anything that he'd done. So I had to do my research after this to learn about who he was, what he said. And I think going on the geeky side of things, kind of putting this back, we had someone lose their job. The main writer of the Red Hood lost their job because they said some very offensive things, and this one I'm actually fine about. And it started with, hope the bullet's okay after touching Charlie Kirk. Thoughts and prayers, you Nazi, and the word euphemism for female dog is used. Not exactly what I would expect an adult to say. And what freedom of speech doesn't do is prevent us from suffering the repercussions of what we do and say. And that's why I think some of these, yeah, sure. I think firing is probably the response. Others, like Kimmel, no. That's what he does. I haven't watched late shows in forever, but it's part and parcel of what they do. They're allowed to say what he said there, and you can get offended, but that's fine.
Yeah.
And for me, I've had to talk to a lot of people, a lot of friends, and on the more right side of the conversation, more left side of the conversation, and just help calm them down, because there's a lot of fear growing, and some of that fear, yeah, I get, but I don't. Maybe it's just me, and my theology is look, If this all burns down tomorrow, God is still sovereign. If it's still around tomorrow, God is still sovereign. So if you're out there and fearful, well, if you don't have trust in God and what He can do, and you think He's limited in power, well, let's have that conversation. But if you think that God is sovereign, that He does what He does, He's in charge. We have not to say we have nothing to worry about. I don't think we need to worry as much.
And I think that's a very valid perspective. I know, again, there's a, and well said. I know there's a lot to tackle here too. I guess just going back to, I mean, obviously, well, Charlie Kirk's up. I mean, just to throw in my 2 cents, I mean, same kind of thing. Obviously, I condemn any kind of political violence. I condemn any kind of, and like you said too, the vitriol that is stemmed from all this is really concerning. I don't really condone, his actions and a lot of things he said. Of course, I condemn the violence there, and and I think we just need to be able to have more authentic conversations. I totally agree there. With this situation specifically, in looking at does this violate free speech for Kimmel to have been fired and then rehired? Oh, also just to make a quick light joke, I'm surprised I didn't see the meme going around of J. Jonah Jameson being like, Parker, you're fired. Oh, you're on fired. Like, where was that? Because we needed some levity this week. But I think with what's made this situation different from I mean, Disney has fired big names in the past. Other companies have for things you said. I think companies have a right to determine based on a person's actions or stuff they post publicly what to do with them, if they want to let them go for something they posted that, it is either, offensive or not in line with their own guidelines. That's up to a company. I think what separates this situation is that this was clearly not Disney's. This was they caved
Overstepping the
initially.
bounds.
Yes, this was no administration should have, and an FCC should have any influence over what a company does with its employees, whether it's a big name late
Agreed.
night show host or a creator. That should be a debate. And this was 100%. I don't think Disney was in it would have done this at all if there had been no pressure from the administration. So that's where I think this
Yes.
is where it's really dangerous, and that's why it's a scary time we're living in, and I am very, opposed to the actions of this administration and its imposition on free speech, and if because heck, in V for Vendetta, there's the scene when the comedian late night show host gets after doing a satirical show about the villain in that. I'm just doing these general terms because it's been a minute since I've read the book and watched the movie. But literally the same thing happens, and of course it's much darker there. But still, yeah, when you have an administration who is so opposed to criticism that it's going to punish and silence voices, that should terrify people. And I think we need to all resist that, whether you're on the right or left end of the political spectrum. I think that's something we should be opposed to. So I am glad that he was reinstated. I did watch the monologue he did last night, this morning, and it was really heartfelt. And I thought he had some he thanked both political opponents that supported him during this, and he had a really nice message for Charlie Kirk's wife, so that was well worth watching. But yeah, it's again, there's a lot to tackle with everything that's gone on in the last couple weeks alone in our country. And I was just in Washington last week for because I was doing some advocacy work there with a nonprofit that I run, KRSMA, that I do work with, and it was a little kind of a scary time to be there. I still had a good time, and I thought it was productive. But yeah, it's just a scary time. I think I hope that more of us can come together and oppose any kind of political violence and any kind of violence together and work towards solutions there, and have more respect for each other, that we can oppose fascism together. And I'm not, and again, when I say that, I am not saying, I know I'm more progressive here, but I am not saying all right wingers are fascists. I'm not gonna put that as a statement. I'm saying there is clearly this is an example of fascism, and that's something that as a nation we should stand up against. So obviously, out of that, I think we should learn to love and respect each other more. And yeah, and I think prayers are certainly needed right now. Action is also needed in conjunction with that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But I hope I can add more to I think there is a difference too between I say because I've been accused too of because of my criticism of the administration, people I grew up with have said you're being too divisive, you're being too, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but Jesus flipped tables, and I am not I can still be critical of an administration and be that without and take a hard stance on issues. That doesn't mean I'm not loving toward people and that I'm not wanting a more unified nation. If anything, that's what I'm hoping for. So
Yeah.
that's kind of
And
but yeah.
And I would say to anyone out there is like, why are you even talking about this on the show? I come here to listen to geeky topics and
Right,
whatnot. Like,
right,
look,
right.
there's a reason we brought this up. There's Kevin
Yeah.
presented the idea to me. I said, sure, let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because if this is where something like this starts, where would people continue to go? What would they censor next? I believe there should be certain amounts of censorship out there. I believe in the rating systems for movies. We already talked
Sure.
about that because I don't want little kids walking into weapons or watching Peacemaker or what have you. But that doesn't mean that those movies need to be censored so that all audiences can watch the movie, or we can only promote material that is wholesome and good. Like, I love my wholesome good things, but I also like to see people depicting the world as it is and what needs to change. And if there are people who are against that, well, that tells me they're on the wrong side of things. And if we're trying to censor those things, maybe I should be speaking out against censorship when it's done incorrectly, when it's done for the purposes of breaking stuff down. So that's why on this show where we talk about geeky stuff, we don't want that to happen to the things we love. So we're going to mention it. So I hope that's convinced you, like, we're not just doing this for the sake of virtue signaling or what have you. It's done with the purpose of we care about these things and we don't want it to happen to them, and we want to let you know how we feel.
I could not have said it better. Agreed 100%. And it's just, geek culture, that's why we have this show. There are so many prominent themes and things about the stories we love and that we geek out on that are reflective of real world and spiritual issues. And yeah, we're going to talk about those. Again, this is because I tend to just do the more let's just talk about the geeky issues episode 2. But yeah, I was of the mind, I'm like, we can't really avoid this one. This is too pertinent right now. Our time. So Christian, I really appreciate you discussing this, man. I hope, and we welcome discussion on this too. Like, we would love to hear people's thoughts here. Of course, do it in a respectful manner wherever, you're kind of at on this, but we want to have these conversations in a healthy way.
The conversations, the comments, they're unlocked for a reason.
Right.
Yeah, just like Kevin said, be respectful, but we can argue about this well.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, I know that was a heavy one to end the episode on, but an important one nonetheless. But with that too, before we go, Christian, do you have any recommendations you want to share, either from this episode or something totally different?
Yeah, as far as what I'd recommend from what we've done today, oh man, I think my highest would actually be Weapons. I really enjoyed that film. It's nice to have something original. I like I love my franchises and stuff like that. But I also love when people are out there and they're making new things for people to experience and not based off of anything else. So I'm going to throw out Weapons.
Excellent choice. I'll also, to complement that, I'll recommend Barbarian. If you haven't seen that yet, definitely go check that one out. And then also, of course, I recommend Peacemaker. I also want to recommend another excellent DC show that isn't a part of this canon, but yeah, although with what James Gunn is doing, who knows if he may ever want to bring these characters back. But if you ever watch Doom Patrol, but especially that first season is absolutely phenomenal. Did you watch it, Christian? That'd be a good
That's
one.
On my list.
Okay,
Titans are on my list too. I just never got around to watching it.
Titans was like, I mean, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would that first season. Kind of went off the rails after that, but Doom Patrol, I mean, especially that first season is just spectacular storytelling. I've got it on Blu-ray, and yeah, you can watch it on Max. So if you want to dive into some of that, you know, a little slightly older DC, that was back when the DC universe had its own streaming service separate from HBO. It was a time I knew it wouldn't last, but I tell you, I enjoyed that app so much. It literally comforted me during COVID. Because it was like it had all the shows and the animated shows and the comics all in one place. Again, I knew it was destined to go away, but it was good while it lasted. So, but I'm glad Doom Patrol was able to be converted over to HBO and it lives there now. So, awesome. Well, Christian, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for going on. Like, I always enjoy our geeky conversations and also our more reflective, philosophical ones as well. We had it all here. So, you know, again, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. If Will Rose gets, 50 likes on an episode, he'll, frolic through a field of flowers, or maybe it's getting to fall. Maybe he'll go through a pumpkin patch.
He will kill his alternate counterpart after going into his father's basement.
Who doesn't want to see that? I mean.
Sorry, Will.
We'll film it. That was beautiful. I love it. But yeah, awesome. Well, everyone, thank you again. Please like, rate, review. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests. Take care, everyone.